Thanks for tuning in, everyone. It's Wednesday. Hope you're having a great day. I'm your host, Stephanie Bainham.
And I'm Alex Delgado. And today, Steph, we're going to begin with the important yet often not discussed topic of suicide. September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and parents need to know how much of a serious problem this really is with our teens.
That's right. In fact, recent findings from the Fresno County Pediatric Death Review Committee revealed that a dramatic increase in teen suicides here in the Valley. In the first 6 months of 2016, there were 16 suicides, which is approximately a 300% increase over the past 8 years. For youths between ages 10 to 24, suicide is the second leading cause of death, and 4,600 lives are lost annually, and 157,000 are treated in emergency departments. So prevention is key here, folks, and we're going to talk awareness and education to help provide some hope.
Please help us welcome Carlos Flores. He is the trauma coordinator for the Pediatric Trauma Center at Valley Children's Hospital and representative of Safe Kids Central California. Also joining him today is Kelly Orender. She's a program coordinator for Fresno Survivors of Suicide Loss. So I appreciate your time, both of you, for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Sometimes suicide we think is a rare occurrence, Carlos, but it is not, we're saying, right?
Unfortunately, it is not a rare occurrence. Our society has a stigma with this. We have a stigma with mental health for whatever reason, but it's really important for us to get out, openly discuss this issue, which is one of the reasons why I openly discussed my own depression. In November of 2013, I was diagnosed with depression. Thank God I'm recovered. However, it's one of those things that continues on a daily basis that I have to think about. Same is true for lots of people. A lot of people have suffered from depression and suicide actions, and so we need to really put this at the forefront of our discussions. What a lot of people don't realize is that for every completed suicide, that is a suicide that results in a death, there are about 200 other attempts that occur. So it's a 200-to-1 ratio. And also the suicides that we hear on the news, unfortunately, we did have a couple just recently that have happened here regionally. There are scores of others that people do not hear about, and so we definitely have our work cut out for us.
Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on to talk about it, because I think talking about it and educating folks is most important. So Kelly, I want to bring you in the conversation and tell folks what you do here in town and about your group.
Our group is Fresno Survivors of Suicide Loss, and what we're doing right now for the month of September, since it's Prevention Month, we're reaching out to the communities. I'm working with local pharmacies, and we're putting on the 1-800 number for suicide on the prescription bottles. So we're doing that with local pharmacies, and we're also just encouraging, if you do have a gun at home, that you would use a lock. Because the last suicides I attended or went to, it was by gun, and so very important. Yeah. If you do have a gun, you would lock it up.
Yeah, sometimes we think those kind of deaths are accidental, but we don't think a lot of times, no, this person is intentionally wanting to hurt themselves, Carlos. Especially those teenage years, they're tough.
Yeah. They are tough.
They are tough, teenage years.
They're incredibly tough. And one of the things that we've been reflecting about, I'm literally a kid of the 60s. I was born in '58 and grew up in the decade of the 60s. Very tumultuous time. This decade right now, in the first part of the millennium, is very similar to the 60s. We have racial tensions, we have wars, we have violence which is occurring, and so that all kind of plays into how we were raised and those things that we have in the back of our heads. There are four things that we have to consider with regards to depression and the how a person develops mental illness of that sort. First of all, there's genetics, there's environment, there's temperament, and there's life experience. So the first part, genetics and biology, that has to do with how our brains are functioning, how they're wired, and also how our chemical balance within the brain structure itself is. We know that if there's an imbalance of some of the neurotransmitters, especially with serotonin or dopamine, that if those neurological chemicals are out of balance, we have a tendency or are prone to have a problem with depression. In addition to that, certain medications that we may be taking for other reasons also have side effects of depression. And so we have to be really cognizant about those matters, the environment, how we were raised to cope with certain stressors. And again, I had mentioned the 60s in my case and how things are happening right now, that those influences can cause our effect of how we adapt to or cope with stressors. So do we lose our temper quickly? Are we calm and cool and collected in stressors? That sort of thing. Temperament is the same thing, but it's the result of those environmental factors. How we respond to stress. For example, men, when they are in a depressed state, oftentimes will express that in anger or in rage. So even a lot of these situations like road rage are probably indicative of a depressive state of that person, believe it or not. In fact, that was how it was recognized in me, where I was losing my temper at very minor things, and my wife for a couple of years was saying, hey, you've got something going on. And until I finally realized that, yeah, in fact, you know what, she was right, and sought help. Life experiences. There are things known as adverse childhood experiences, or what we refer to as ACEs. These adverse childhood experiences can be things such as a death of a family member or a parent, abandonment, the parental divorce. It could be drug abuse in the home or domestic violence in the home. All of those factors can come into play and affect the child negatively, so that when they grow up, it actually affects their mental health status. Child abuse certainly is one of those things, and for others, bullying. Those that live in the LGBT community, unfortunately, are at high risk, and things such as sexting, which does get the young ones in particular trouble with their social environment. And so all of those things we have to kind of address and put them out in the forefront. Let's talk about them, because we know that talking about them actually prevents these things from happening.
And coming up after the break, you're going to tell us exactly how to address this issue,
Yes,
and how
we
to
will.
talk to our
Yeah.
teenagers. So don't change that channel. Kelly, you'll stick around as well as Carlos with the warning signs and what to say exactly to someone who needs help when we come back with more.
There's a lot in this valley that matters. Your town pride matters. And getting in touch with nature matters. Hard work matters.